Just a few housekeeping items before we get into the presentation today. First off, I'd like to welcome you to another Yale Appliance webinar. So today we're talking about how to design and build your own outdoor kitchen. This is a topic we've done in the past and something that's become increasingly popular over the years. Just for everyone's reference, we will be recording today and sharing the presentation afterwards. So just keep that in mind. If you're taking notes, you'll have the whole thing to use afterwards. Do use the Q&A feature in Zoom to send over any questions that come up along the way. We'll have time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. And lastly, you can find all of our previous webinars on our YouTube channel. All of our recorded webinars are available there. If you'd like to check out different topics, how to plan your kitchen, how to start a renovation, appliances to consider and not consider, for example, are all available on YouTube. So with that out of the way, I'll turn it over to Steve Scheinkoff, our CEO.
Thank you, Pat. This is our second how to design and build your own outside kitchen. So I almost completely redid it from the first one, completely reskinned. And as I looked at videos in photographs, a lot of this is stuff you shouldn't do. So it's going to be a very interesting webinar in a lot of ways. And at the end, you're going to be able to design and build your own outside kitchen. But I want to start with a very extreme outside kitchen, the most extreme I've ever seen, actually. And it's not this one. This is a beautiful Kalamazoo outside grill. Okay, it's probably not what you expected. 3 little girls hugging in a parking lot somewhere. That's my daughter on the right-hand side. And this is their pre-K graduation. They do that now. Not just pre-K, but pre-K graduation. So she was invited to her pre-K graduation party. And her friend Penelope was having. And so we drove, it was a nice place in Brookline, drove up to the house, and I'm like, okay, who lives here? So we went in the house, it was an absolutely beautiful home. They had the regulation bouncy house. They had 2 different kinds of hot dogs, not just Fenway Franks, but the really good kind too for the adults. And I'm just wondering who lives here. It's got to be somebody that lives here. And I was introduced by a guy who said, hey, my name is Fred. I'm lucky enough to marry into this family. Showed me his house. Just beautiful. The Harry Potter library with the spiral staircases. The home theater. The retro 50s bar. I mean, just well conceived. What was really interesting to me was outside his house, he had a 53-inch grill. That's the biggest grill you can buy. A short walk away, he had a pool pavilion, which was bigger than the house I live in. And that had a whole 53-inch kitchen set up as well, just a short walk away. It turns out that Penelope's great-grandfather was a billionaire. So any billionaires on the call, just know that you could put outside kitchen, grills, wherever you want. But for everybody else, we have to be a lot more strategic. And so we're going to really focus in on the how and what to design an outside kitchen today. So it makes sense. So it's functional, attract, and it'll last. So I want to warm you up by showing some really nice outside kitchens that have really bad designs. This is my least offensive. It's more of a wear. You have the infinity pool in front, which you can't see. The house is way out back. This is nice, but it can be better. You're probably thinking, okay, this has got everything. What could be the problem? This is another where question. Does this really need to happen in the place that it's in? And we'll talk a little bit about this too. There's a couple of obvious problems to it. At the end, we're going to redesign all of these, or you're going to learn how to redesign all of these, but just take a look, right? Another one, this is a U-shape. We're going to get into configurations. This is a U-shape outside center with one big problem. It's pretty well conceived with the TV, sink. They have the high output grill, access doors underneath, and on the right-hand side, if you look at it, they have a smoker as well. So they can do high heat or low and slow. And one of the things about grills that we're going to learn is you can't do both. There's no one grill that will do both. And then this one. This is the biggest problem, and I see it all over the internet. These 3-series and porches. You can do them, but they have to be done in the right way. And this is not the right way to do it. So I've showed you all sorts of bad ones. Of all the pictures I've seen, and I went through a bunch, this is the best setup I've seen on the internet. Not just because of the vent and the sideburns. We'll get into all that and the sink and placement. I'm not sure about the materials. We're going to get into materials as well. But in terms of a configuration, this is ideal. So, and we're going to get into all that, and you're going to learn how to redesign a bit, because you're going to learn about everything from the who to the what, to elements you need to consider, how to plumb, the lighting, the venting, all your options. We're going to get into the four main configurations, materials, what type of cabinets you need, maintenance, key takeaways, and then we're going to redesign those outside kitchens. And I'm going to show you a lot of other pictures along the way. That's me. I don't know why I've included this. This is my 50th year at Yale in one capacity or another, since my dad tapped me on the shoulder and said, I got to go to work on Saturday. So, and this is our second go round. I think you'll like this presentation. But the first thing, especially for you New Englanders, is who's going to do it. You just can't do a cabinet company that's inside for outside. There's a totally different kind of skill set. A lot of you have asked questions on coding, but I'm really more worried about if they've done it before and what materials they use, because you can't just put cabinets outside and call it an outside kitchen. And for that, I always recommend, you probably have seen other webinars where I always recommend, have they done it before? Who have they done it for? Have they done a similar space? And to check Google, Yelp reviews, and certainly call existing contacts, especially in New England, because it's new for us. In Florida, this is something they all do. But in New England, really check to make sure that the kitchen cabinet person, the contractor, understands all the things you need to do for outside. Then we talk about them. Let's talk about you. What type of space are we doing? Are you just cooking some burgers? Are you entertaining? Kids doing homework there? I put all these questions in, and we're going to send all this stuff to you. But basically, give me some ideas. Where's it located? How much space do you have, and what do you want to do? How do you grill? Remember, counter space is a little bit different because you're using more platters than plates. And the further you go from your house, the more that you typically need. And we'll get into all of this. And if you don't know, that's fine. Before you plan your outside kitchen, obviously you want to plan for rain. Having an umbrella is not a good strategy, but and I think most people understand that. But wind is the big one. If you've got a prevailing wind in your backyard, is you don't want that wind blow. You don't want the grill smoke blowing into your house because it's pretty unhealthy. A lot of people are talking about gas stoves being banned. Gas grills could be 2 to 3 times more powerful, infrared on the top. So you want to leave that. You want to make sure that wherever it is, the wind that you have isn't blowing, the conditions you have doesn't blow into your house. So those are 2 things you need to consider before you start planning. The other is the fuel types. You need to worry about plumbing it all in. Obviously, with natural gas grills, you're going to need natural gas. Propane, that's not an issue. But the more stuff you have, rotisseries, blenders, refrigerators, warming drawers, charging stations, you need electricity out there. And obviously, if you do any appliances, ice makers, sinks and faucets, or even dishwashers, we don't do too many of those, you're going to need to run water lines as well. So those are a couple of things you need to think of as you're planning. Lighting. I love this. This picture I kept from last year because I actually love it. And you may want to write this down. This is called LED lighting tape. We used to sell lighting a couple of years ago. Lighting tape is just a thin strip of light with little LED diodes in it. And this is what they did here. That is not lighting rope. Rope lighting doesn't give you the same kind of lumen output as LED lighting tape. And you can get high output LED tape that'll do the counters and everything else. Now, once again, a lot of grills that you're probably considering have lights in them. If they don't, there's portable lights that you can put on it. But if you're doing an enclosure, you may want to think of running some recess or fixture so you can see how to grill. A lot of people put those miners hats on as well. But for Consideration for outside, think about LED tape. And if you're enclosing it, think of recess or some kind of other lighting fixtures to help you light your way. Venting is the one thing I'm going to stop and talk about a lot. Venting your vent needs to be specific. I showed this picture in the beginning. We're going to redesign it, but we may as well do it now. That hood won't work over the grill. The grill, you're going to grill at about 24 to 26 inches off the grill. Triangle hoods are basically 21 inches deep, so that smoke is going to billow out. The problem is with unventilated areas is the inside of our homes are more polluted than the outside because we don't vent properly. And those were just regular gas ranges that are 50, 60,000 BTU. Your gas, some of the gas grills you will be considering are 100,000 over. And you don't want carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrous oxide in your house. You want it vented properly. So the vent that you're going to use is something that's 24, I'd even recommend 27 inches deep and a minimum of 1500 CFM. One of the things that you might want to do is download our venting buying guide, which is separate from a grilling buying guide, which will tell you how to vent, because the other thing is you got to vent straight up or straight back so smoke doesn't go anywhere. With a few transitions, you want to use extra large piping as well. But really, if you're going to do a 3-season porch, you really have to consider venting. Or if you're going to enclose the grill in any way, shape, or form, really consider venting, because it's going to smoke up your house, certainly depreciate it because it smells like everything that's there, but it's also you're going to pollute the inside of your home if you don't vent properly, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So lighting, venting are things you have to consider. And then the type of grills. Now it's interesting, there's no one type of grill that can do everything. And there's more types of grills now than there ever were in the 36 years I've been here full time. You know, before it was just a Weber or some kind of Smoky Joe. Now you've got a hybrid grill like a Kalamazoo that can do charcoal and gas and wood, to give you texture and speed and flavor. Most people defer to the Lynx and the DCS type grills that are high output with the sear elements. Ceramics like the Kamado Joe or the Big Green Egg are popular because you can do a little bit of everything. And the smokers like Traeger, this made popular, Rectech is another one, which are really indirect electric convection. So those will go, you can cook over time, kind of like a crock pot. You cook over time so you have a much more tender type of meat. You know, it's indirect electric convection. You can add flavor with pellets and everything else. But there's no one type of grill that can do low and slow, ideally, and speed as well. So whether you do one of these and choose or implement, I'll show you a few designs that have a couple of different styles in them. And then you've got other cooking options. You know, we talked about smokers and ceramics, but you also have side burners if you want to cook as you grill. You have warming drawers underneath it. A lot of people like the warming drawer because you can put your buns in there. You could put, if you cook high volume, you can keep the food warm up to 3 hours without it dehydrating like a microwave. Asado griddles. Griddles have become popular on the outside now as well as the inside because you could do really anything on a griddle. And then you have the pizza ovens. I'm sure there's more as well. And then you have appliances. Just make sure they're UL rated to be placed outside. I know for sinks, galley sinks, it's a sink line that we sell, but I'm sure there are others that can be put outside. And then you have refrigerators, ice makers, dishwashers, all sorts of beverage centers like wine units, beverage storage drawers. You can really put anything, almost anything you could do on the inside, you can now do outside your house. So just you can plan that accordingly. Now there's 4 different types of configurations: island, L, U, and galley. This is an island style. Now stop and look at this picture. This has to be some kind of display in a store somewhere. Now, from a utilitarian standpoint, what do you think? Now, I'm willing to bet there's probably 30 people on this call. 84% of you are righties. So you probably want to put the side burners on the right. Now, both grilling and cooking are task oriented. So you need to be able to do both quickly. So what you want to do with side burners is put them right next to the grill. You don't want to put them a foot off. Just think of what it's like to cook. If you're a righty over there, you're going to have to hop from one to another. You want to avoid that. Next picture shows a much better design. This is called the L shape, which is basically an island with a little L off the front. If you take a look at the ceramic grill on the left, the Kamado Joe on the left, right next to the grill. So you could do both at one time, and the sink is right next to that. So the three most used items are in proximity. The concepts of best kitchen design, and we've taught some of that, is it's never be more than a foot away from the most used appliances. On inside your house, it's sink, dishwasher, stovetop. For the outside, it certainly would be any type of grilling and perhaps your sink as well. Then you have a U shape, which is just another level as well. And then the galley, which you would have a cooking station and a serving station overlooking your Golden Gate Bridge or whatever bridge that is. So those are your 4 different configurations. Now, how do you choose? After you choose the amount of stuff, what kind of stuff you're going to put in there, the configuration. Best piece of advice from Urban Bonfire is basically chalk it off. Before you start doing anything, before you start building anything, is to basically chalk off and just do like a little pretend grill session to see if it works in your space. Now that we've talked about configurations, different models, different grills, let's talk about the materials. For the cooktop, you want to use what's become popular is composites, specifically Decton. But you can use concrete, stainless, of course. In New England, you typically want to use, you don't want to use quartz or limestone because they can fade. I took this from the Decton sales brochure. Really, the one that you want to consider in New England is resistant to ice and thawing, scratch resistance, nice, resistance to obviously next to a grill is fire and heat as well, and UV resistance. So any type of material that can do that, certainly Decton's the one that comes up. We don't sell it, but some kind of composite material that's weather resistant is what you want to buy. For cabinets, marine grade, which is kind of a retail term, you want a better stainless steel or something that's more resistant cast for light fixtures is for cabinets as well, because you don't want to put an outside cabinet. It's not going to last more than 2 to 3 years outside New England. And almost every manufacturer offered a design solution. This is Heston's. Heston's a grill brand we sell. This is all stainless steel. It's magnificent. You can put whatever you want into it as well. The one that keeps coming up is Urban Bonfire. Now, excuse the picture with I think the ceramic and the grill can be closer apart, but they work with every grill line. You can design it the way you want with any number of finishes, and it ships within 4 to 8 weeks. And it's marine grade cabinets with, now they're starting to install the Decton tops to it as well. So this is a good solution. Again, a lot of companies will offer certainly cheaper DIY, just want to make sure that it lasts more than 1 or 2 years. Last thing is maintenance. Once you build it, you got to make sure that you maintain it. I always recommend certainly covers, even in the summertime for grills. You have to shut off your power, gas, water, electricity, and uninstall your refrigerator, put in your garage, ice makers as well. So here are key takeaways. What is your strategy, right? And minding your elements, roughing it out, understanding all your options, chalk it off, buying weather-resistant materials and maintain it. As I show you at another picture, with the sink way on your left, the Kamado way on the right, the side burners on the left, and the grill in the middle. So this is probably something you don't want to do. So with that in mind, I want to show you some other resources. We have a barbecue buying guide. I actually just updated it last week. We have a lot of really cool barbecue recipes. One of my friends is a competing grill pit master, and I paid him for a bunch of grill recipes that are on our learning center. You may want to look at those. Some of them are kind of fun, especially the desserts. Just remember, you can do this. But even if you can't, if you're hiring a designer, at least you download the presentation, get and understand what you want so you could better communicate what you want with that designer so you get something that's really functional and unique to you. So with that in mind, let's take a look at some of these kitchens. Now, I don't really have a problem with this first one, other than the farther you go, the more that you need. What you want to do is you want to yo-yo back from your kitchen. So what I would do in a setup like this is maybe put a little refrigerator in, your side burners in, they have the cabinets. But something like this, typically I would put maybe the kitchen closer by, but certainly not this close. Now, this is a total inside room. And you got to wonder if they need all this stuff, because I kind of believe the kitchen's close by. So do you need a dishwasher? Probably not. Do you need all these? Maybe, maybe not. But one thing that they did really wrong is, if you take a look in the living room next door, is they really planned it out. You can tell by the picture matches the candlestick, which matches the sofa, very nice. But on the other side, you're going to see the back of the true drawer refrigerator, the back of that cabinet. What they did wrong here is they put in a grill with the grill cart. Now, you can buy grills two ways. You can buy it on what's called a grill head or a range top, just the top part, or you can buy the whole thing. And they bought the whole thing. What I would rather see them do is buy just the top, put the warming drawer underneath it, and then move the refrigerator on the right-hand side. So that way, the person sitting on the Auburn sofa is not looking at the back of a refrigerator. Typically, I don't think that they would need the dishwasher with the kitchen close by. Then again, that's just me. If it's the closer it is in proximity, the less you actually need. On this one, the vents all long. You need a deeper vent, 24 to 27 inches, better CFM, and a deeper hood. I'm going to show you a better hood in just a bit. But this hood won't work with that grill. And that's going to cause problems throughout your house. On this one, you need a vent, certainly. They did everything right. Other than that, you need to vent it straight up, put a canopy vent. So with that in mind, let's look at somebody that got it right. This is not the most elaborate outside kitchen I've seen, but it's the most functional. First of all, let's look at the hood. The hood's 27 inches deep, 24 inches tall, so it's going to capture anything off that high output grill. Side burners right next to the grill where they belong. The sink. Now, again, we teach in kitchen design, the sink is the focal point. That's where you are the most. But if you take a look at how this person's going to use this outside space, they're never going to have to move more than 1 foot for the most common for the most common products that they're going to use. They're never going to have to move. See, I don't think refrigerators that's not mission critical is still nicely tucked in, but it can be further out, as is some of the other things. So this is a beautiful kitchen. Just take it, show your designer if you can do a U shape. If not, just remember the most used things, put them in close proximity. And that's about it. Our next webinar is April 24th. We're going to go back into the kitchen with the best affordable luxury brands. We could talk about availability as well. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Steve. We do have a couple of questions, and please do use the Q&A feature if anything came up during the presentation. We have time to dive into Q&A from attendees here. Steve, one thing that's always a topic at the moment is availability of products. So when we're thinking about these outdoor products specifically, what should people keep in mind in terms of availability?
It's going to change the way you buy a grill, certainly. We probably our most popular grill line might be out of business for this year, and that would be Lynx. Lynx is going to be shipping grills. They're part of that conglomerate Middleby, and I just don't think Lynx. I just think their supply chain's broken, because most of what they do is inside, and it's really their only. That and Viking is really their only outside grill line. So I don't think that you're going to see a Lynx probably in 2022, unless it's in stock now. With that in mind, instead of Lynx, you may want to buy DCS, which is available. It doesn't have the sear elements. Lynx is called an all sear grill because they put the ceramic rods in, a little different. I don't think you're going to see a Lynx smart grill probably the next 3 years. So I think DCS is going to be the one grill line for 2022 for Pro. I think Kalamazoo has got being privately owned. People are going to, although it's expensive, it's probably the best grill because they have the deeper well for natural convection. They can do the wood and the charcoal as well. And I think, everyone says 4 to 8 weeks. They're still at 4 to 8 weeks, which is good. That's good availability now, with certain inside lines being a year. I think Weber, you're not going to see a Spirit very much, or their better Summits. And I only think you're going to see kind of their special Genesis really stocked. So I think that's going to be a problem. I think Heston's far away as well. So in other words, what I'm saying is, I think you're still going to get a grill. It's probably not going to be the brand the brand that you were going to consider top of mind. And I think that if you're going to consider a Weber grill, I think you should go out and buy it now.
And so we had a question about what outdoor grill brands do we recommend. You touched on that a little bit. So maybe you want to maybe speak to the range of outdoor grills that people will be considering, from that for an outdoor kitchen. That you mentioned Weber, and all the way up to Kalamazoo. What kind of goes into those different levels?
Sure. Well, first of all, we've carried every grill line, and we only have like 4 or 5 now. And there's nothing against getting a lesser expensive grill. I get it. But in New England, they just don't last. And the reality is a lot of grills aren't consistent with their heat. So with that in mind, we only carry like 5 or 6, and we're always on the hunt for something else, because really what we carry is Weber, and then Pro, and then Kalamazoo. But if you take a look at it, we'll go into the different types. Really, if you look at the Pro types, there's Kalamazoo that gives you a drawer underneath that allows you to put wood and charcoal underneath. So what that does, in addition to being a fast grill or more BTU output per burner, it gives you texture, right? Because gas doesn't give you texture or flavor. So wood and charcoal do. When you go to the grill competitions, there's no gas grills. It's all a composite of mesquite or pecan or whatever they look for. So you can do that in Kalamazoo. And they're a subset of what is a high output grill. High output grill is a grill that will give you 23 to 25,000 BTU per burner to be able to cook fast. Now, some of them sear through infrared. Infrared is that direct heat source, whereas gas diffused. When you turn on a gas burner, a lot of that 40% is lost to heat. Infrared is a direct source heat. Heston and Lynx have that infrared heat source. But something like that you'll be able to cook faster, sear quicker on a Pro. It's all stainless steel. They have the better rotisseries in them with the infrareds in back of the rotisserie. And it's designed better to cook faster, sear better, last long. And then you have what I consider what's Weber, which is a lower BTU. Instead of having a high output at 25,000, their burners run anywhere from 9 to 12,000 BTUs per burner. So their Summit will give you 60,000 BTUs, but it'll give you 12,000 BTUs. So you're going to be able to cook a lot, but just not as fast. You won't be able to sear quickly. Doesn't have the same sear, like same output, doesn't give you the same output on the burners, but it'll last long. Weber is kind of like a regular grill will give you decent construction, will last better than the other burners, perhaps at a better price, perhaps at a more expensive price, but for every one Weber, you're going to get 2 to 3 of the other ones. And that's really the gas grills. Now you got pellet grills, which really shouldn't be considered grills at all, because a grill will go, typically a charcoal grill will go to or some of the other ones will go to 1,100 BTU. An electric, a pellet grill will only go to 550, say 5 to 550. So it's an indirect convection. So what happens here is you feed it with pellets, and you would smoke it over a period of time, almost like for those people that have slow cookers, you would throw it in and, wait 5 or 6 hours and get a much more flavorful kind of, and you could, with the pellets, you can buy anything. You can buy, there's 1,000 different pellet combinations. And like those combinations, you get 2 different kinds of pellets. You put whatever combination you want in there. So it's more of a slow type of cook. Now, Lynx and Kalamazoo have smoking cabinets where you can just buy a cabinet that can do that as well. So that's another subset of electric grills that really aren't grills, they're more slow cooking. And then you got charcoal, which is something that everyone should consider. It will give you the speed of gas with more texture and flavor of charcoal. However, it's not as consistent as a gas grill. It's like you can't put it at a temperature per se, and you've got to clean it more. You got to take the ash out. So that's your charcoal. A subset of that is the Kamados, which can do a lot of everything, but you have to learn it like a Kamado Joe or a Big Green Egg that can do slower, that can do more meal prep, but it's something that you have to learn. So those are the 5 grills. Those are the grills and all the subset in their descriptions. And what a lot of people do in the outside is certainly not put 2 53-inch grills in, but put a grill in maybe a Kamado or a grill in a charcoal or a grill, and then put the smoker somewhere else where you can do 1 or too many. And it all depends. I mean, for a lot of people, myself included, a grill is fine. So it really depends on your particular style and what you need.
Thanks, Steve. And so we had a question come in. What about, so the grilling is really kind of usually the feature of the outdoor kitchen, but what about the secondary products like refrigeration, for example? What brands might be good for considering there?
Well, anything that can be UL rated to be outside. And the brand that comes, Sub-Zero has the brand that comes to mind only because everything they design inside and outside is True. True is a commercial company that started to make residential products 5 to 6 years. Everything they make is inside outside because it's all steel with steel screws, steel everything. And I think Perlick is another one that comes to mind. Lynx, Kalamazoo, they all have their own branded. I'm not sure if they make it or if they OEM somebody else's. We have 5 or 6 different choices for outside, but just make sure it can be put outside. It's the only thing. UL for wet or damp location.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And when we talk about what's new in the grilling world, or what new there are new models, or there are new features that people will be seeing, and you want to talk about that?
Yeah, there's specifically 3 new ones that have come out. Weber on their Genesis. Weber's such an interesting company. They got 3 lines: the Spirit, the Genesis, and the Summit, which is their best grill. The one they neglect the most is their best grill, the Summit. The one that they put all their R&D into is actually their middle grill, the Genesis. And for this year, what they have is they have a new system where they have a new grate where you can put in, they increase their sear burner from 9 to 12,000 BTUs. It's not a real sear, it's just a row of burners, it's not infrared. But what they did that was really interesting, I thought, was they have a new grate that can fit all sorts of accessories, like griddles. I'm a big fan of a griddle because you can really cook anything on a griddle. They got griddles, they've got different rotisserie crisper, rotisserie baskets, different kind of sear elements where you can turn that grill into something else. That I thought was very interesting for this year, assuming you can get one. And it's only on certain Genesis, as I understand. Then you have Kalamazoo, which actually went, they've always been big in that hybrid. But instead of hybrid, they took away the hybrid, lowered their price to a mere $12,500, which is almost in the ballpark when you're talking about an upper Lynx, DCS, or Heston. What they did, though, was they got rid of the hybrid, but they extended it 2 inches down, so you have that natural convection. So on Kalamazoo, unlike any other grill, you have an airflow, so it cooks more evenly. So they got rid of the hybrid, and they kept the natural air convection version of that in a 42 or 48-inch grill head, which I think is interesting because you can get it in 48 weeks, which seems like a long time. Although we're in March, you can still get it before grilling season, hopefully. But you get probably the best non-hybrid grill, which is theirs. It's a beautiful, theirs is, they make it's 360 pounds for their grill head versus 240 for a Lynx Heston or DCS. Speaking of DCS, they actually have their Series 9 grill, which supposedly came out last year, wasn't available. This year it's available, and it's going to be very interesting. I can't wait to use it because they put a charcoal tray in it. So now you can infuse it with flavor like wood and charcoal. Now I'm sure it doesn't work like hybrid, but does it work? And can it infuse and make your food texture? I'm a natural cynic because I think a lot of the innovations that have come out haven't worked in appliances in general. So we're going to test that out, and if it works, that would be a very interesting feature to consider. Because now you don't have to buy two; you can just get the charcoal tray in a DCS Series 9 grill. So those are the three options. Those are the three new innovations for 2022. I think we have updated our grill guide to include all three.
Yep. So one more question. Do you use the Q&A? Send over any questions that come up before we wrap up here. Steve, we had a question about local codes, and when you're planning your kitchen, what's important to consider there, and what do people have to do to make sure that they're following code?
That's a very good question, and codes are specific to different areas. I know that in Boston, for example, you can't put LP on a rooftop, or I think that includes even on balconies due to the fact that propane can explode. But I would say following UL is certainly one of it. For the person asking, I'd be happy to answer that question individually because each local municipality has their own set of rules, as it were. But definitely you want to keep to UL. You want to keep to actual, I think, make sure that your builder knows, obviously, UL, wet location, all that sort of thing. I don't think inspectors really care about what kind of cabinets are top, but just make sure that the electrical is in code. Certainly any plumbing is in code, and everything else is, I think, more or less optional, even though that's what you should consider because what's going to demolish your outside grill in short order is the type of materials you're going to use.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's all our questions for today. So if there's nothing else, thank you, Steve, for the presentation. We will be posting this on our YouTube channel. We'll be emailing this out to all of the registrations. So you'll have the access to the recording, and feel free to reply to those messages with any questions that come up with your outdoor kitchen project. And
you can do this.
Yeah.
Right, Pat?
Yeah, there's a plan now. Yep.
It's a plan.
And with that, that's it for today. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Pat.